What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. It is Sunday, February the 16th. We are fresh off one of the few remaining Mega Saturdays of the year. There's 3 or 4 of those left, and it was an awesome slate of games. We'll recap it briefly here, talk about some of the major games and what happened, and bets along the way when we placed them. I think we start first and foremost with Alabama-Auburn, where Auburn gets a crazy win over in Tuscaloosa on the road. The big story in the game, I think, stylistically for these two teams was first Auburn's depth, just their ability to play up to 10 guys in any given roster construction they needed to, whether it's Broom getting banged up, he was limping all over the place again, or Mazzara fouling out of the game. And Alabama's inability to do some of the same stuff. This team did shoot poorly from three. They only made 5 of them. But Auburn playing their athletic long defense really got Alabama out of sorts. They were not letting them shoot good threes. When they did take threes, they were contested. And instead, they were trying to drive them off the three-point line and funnel them towards Chaney Johnson and Janai Broom and Cardwell on the inside. And Auburn continues to prove they're the best team in the country. Florida, South Carolina, nothing really to note here as far as the score was. I just want to point out that Micah Hanlockton did return for Florida, replacing Condon and Alexis inside. He played 20 minutes and fouled 4 times. I don't know what that would have been if he ended up not fouling, but that's just worth noting for those of you looking at Florida in the future. Hanlockton was one of the best rebounders in the country. He's back and playing a lot. Tennessee ends up beating Vanderbilt, had a huge comeback in that game. I don't think there was really too much to see there. Tennessee kind of one of the best teams at adjusting on the fly after halftime, found ways to score, attacked it repeatedly, found ways to defend, didn't allow anything from Vanderbilt. Houston ends up beating Arizona on the road. Just an incredibly I'm surprised Houston won this game. This is one I did have eyes on. On Saturdays, it's physically difficult to watch every single game when you have one television and you can only quad box stuff. You inevitably miss things when there's 150 games or thereabout. But Houston, in the first half, most of their offense was throw the ball into Tugler, Juwan Roberts. They take an awful mid-range shot, and because Arizona pushes the pace so fast, they were just getting out in transition and scoring at will. Arizona didn't actually shoot the ball well. They shot the ball actually poorly, to be frank. But Houston kind of gave them a lot of points in transition because of how they were playing offense. Houston ends up getting the cover. That was one we played, so fortunate there. Wisconsin, Purdue. Caleb first fouled out of this game for Purdue, so that was the big change they had made in their lineup, playing him more. He's their best rim defender, and Wisconsin just repeatedly attacked this team. And Wisconsin did it without Kamari McGee. We highlighted him, but he ended up getting ejected for punching someone in the dick inadvertently, is what it is. It was a moving screen. I had nothing malicious there. But yeah, Wisconsin continues to impress. Purdue has a fatal flaw. This team is as good as they are. They can't defend the interior. Trey Kaufman-Renn first. They just do not have enough bodies inside. Texas A&M, Arkansas, we had the under in this game. It came in comfortably. Calipari had the crazy rant after the game. I'll just say this. We need better reporting in college basketball, not just from the injury side. Reporters need to do a better job. When he's in these press conferences, instead of asking, like, here's a generic question you hear asked. You allowed Texas A&M to go on a 12-0 run. This is all hypothetical. I don't know if this actually happened. What do you need to do to stop this? And coaches will say, we need to play harder. It's a useless exchange between reporter and coach. Instead, you could ask, Ivasic has been your best player for the last 2 games by a wide margin. Why did he play 20 minutes without foul trouble? And what can you do to change this moving forward? And the answer might be he turned an ankle. He's sick. It might be harmless. Or it might be you find out Calipari is completely incompetent. And then you have the answer. I tend to lean towards incompetence because he's played rotation. He's played like a crazy rotation the entire year, but I don't have the answer. Quickly running through some of the rest of this. Michigan State demolishes Illinois. We mentioned the 3-point woes for both teams. The big difference in this game was Michigan State shot 12 of them and Illinois shot 33. So there you have it. Both teams can't shoot. It's no surprise the team that shot 33 of them lost. Outside of that, Texas Tech crushed Oklahoma State. We had that one. Texas ends up getting a big win over Kentucky. Depending on the number, you could have covered on either side of that. I ended up just staying away because of the injuries. Ole Miss ends up losing on their home court to Mississippi State. Second time the year that's happened. Had Ole Miss, that was a loss. Clemson demolishes Florida State. Very big win for them. Overall, it was a good day, profitable day, both in props, 3-1 there, and in size and totals. Not sure what it ended up being in the end, but a good day. Let's spin this forward. We have a pretty good Sunday slate. They're getting a little bit beefier now that we are removed from the NFL. I guess we're going to start with Bradley and Drake. This was the game I ended up planning on doing last, but somehow the slideshow got completely mixed up, it appears. Before we get started, if you or somebody knows a problem gambling, make sure you call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 or older to play in most areas. I always just want to say that. But yeah, I guess we're going to start in the Missouri Valley. This is an awesome game. I was planning on starting in the Big Ten, but this is just the way it's going to go today. It's a rematch of number 1 and number 2. Huge implications for the conference. These teams already played. Drake won the first game 64-57. That was in Bradley's building too. Actually, a pretty bad game for both teams. They both shot 25% from 3. Drake won on the margins. They ended up 10 offensive boards, a few more rebounds overall. They forced a few more turnovers. And that's what ended up causing Bradley to drop the game. It was just a few things on the margin in a razor close game. As far as efficiency metrics for these two teams, both these teams are awesome at shooting. Bradley in particular has been a real surprise. This team is fifth in effective field goal percentage, and they're first in three-point percentage on the year. And just diving into that, outside their 7-1 center, Amit Johnson, he hasn't attempted a 3 all year. Everyone that's playing at least 10% of the minutes is hitting 37% of their threes for Bradley. That's like 8 guys. Just crazy the shooting they have on this team and the depth that comes with it. With that said, their best matchup is still probably inside, and Bradley's pretty good at scoring inside. They're 57th in effective height. Drake is 324th. Drake is 323rd at interior defense, which creates a path for Bradley to score. Interestingly, rebounding metrics actually favor Drake in this game, but I think that is more philosophy than talent because Drake is heavy on the offensive glass. They're 25th in offensive rebounding. Bradley's 288th. Bradley's awesome defensive rebounding. It just appears instead of chasing their shots, they're getting back on defense. And I'll say this too. When you're first in three-point shooting, 5th in shooting overall, sometimes your rebounding numbers look a little worse than they actually are because you just don't have opportunities to rebound. So Bradley kind of inherently is dealing with a small sample on the glass. On the other side, Drake is a very good shooting team themselves, 33rd in effective field goal, 57th in three-point percentage. Bradley's defense is a little worse than Drake's overall, but they're still competent everywhere. It's kind of like a above average defense across the board, 66th on the interior, 74th on the perimeter. That was enough for Drake to exploit the first game because Drake is a good shooting team. On the margins, Drake, they're a little reckless with the ball. Actually, they're pretty reckless with the ball. They're like 330th or something in turnovers committed. I have this right in front of me. 306th in turnovers committed. That's a horrible number. But Bradley doesn't force any turnovers. They're 270th in turnovers generated. On the other side, Drake forces a ton of turnovers. They're 15th in turnovers forced. Bradley's a little better with the ball, but they're still 218th in turnovers committed. So that actually favors Drake slightly. Fouls, Drake is in tons of foul trouble, which is a problem for them. They're 299th in fouls committed. And this team is outside the top 300 in bench minutes. I mean, you lose a guy to foul trouble, that could be a problem for Drake. Both these teams pretty good at generating them. Bradley's 113th. Drake is 10th. Bradley doesn't foul as much when they're on offense or defense. I hesitate to call that an advantage for either side. When I look at how well Bradley shoots the ball, honestly, I think there's a little bit of value on them. That's the way I lean in this game. But we have this projected 60.8 to 67.6. That's basically right on the spread for this contest. So I'm going to stay away from now and just lean towards Bradley. I think I would need at least a +7 to take this on today's slate. But awesome game, 2 amazing offenses, even if they play slow. A game you want to be plugged into if you're playing anything March Madness. Huge implications in the Missouri Valley. Second game up, going in reverse order today. So we go to the Big Ten. Iowa, Maryland, not the best game in this conference. We'll get to that one. Supposed to be first. It's going to be last now. We're saving the best for last. Iowa, Maryland, this game has an 11.5-point spread. The total is 159. The over is screamed up. Iowa has taken money somehow, and injuries are all over the place. Owen Freeman's out for Iowa in the front court. Drew Thelwell, one of their point guards, missed their last game. For Maryland, Tafari Gapari has been out. He's kind of a rotational big. That's a position of depth for Maryland, so I don't really think that matters too much. Elite pacing in this game. Iowa's playing at the speed of light. They're 24th in pace. 28th in pace, and Maryland 64th. So two awesome teams that will run with you. And fortunately, Iowa has no interest in playing defense, so this is a game that should get up and down. Before we go any further, I did take the over at 158, currently sitting at 159. We still show a little value there, but a few other reasons why outside of just the pace. Iowa, I think, is probably the easiest matchup for Maryland out of all the Big Ten teams, especially when they don't have Freeman. Maryland is 83rd in effective height. They play through two elite big men in Derek Queen and Julian Reese. Iowa's 337th in interior defense. These two players should be absolutely feasting on the glass. Maryland is 46th in rebounding. Iowa is 326th there. Every interior metric Iowa is horrific at on the defensive end. They're much better scoring and shooting overall. They're pretty decent on the interior scoring. But Maryland should be able to get whatever they want. And with this pace, you might see Maryland get 90, 100 points in a contest like this. We have them projected mid-80s, and that's a median outcome. Just crazy what Maryland might do in this contest. Iowa is actually the better shooting team overall. They're strong inside and out. They're 22nd in three-point percentage. I'm a little worried about their depth in this game. Owen Freeman in the front court is not going to play. That hurts them. Thelwell is one of their two best shooters. He's questionable. There's only two guys in Iowa hitting over 40% of their threes, at least with a good sample, and he's one of them. And he's also a ball handler, so that is important for Iowa in this game. With all that said, I think Maryland is still infinitely better than Iowa in defense. Their biggest weakness is probably their 71st ranked interior. Again, with Sanford, you still probably can exploit that. Iowa is top 12 at scoring inside. They just can't defend whatsoever. I'm going to take the over in this game at 158. It's one we played in Discord last night. And I also took Jacoby Gillespie, their 6'1 guard, Maryland's that is, under 4.5 rebounds. He's averaging well below that. Only wrinkles, he's playing every single minute now, so maybe there's a little bit of variance, but that one's one we still show under on. And if you're ever interested in the Discord where we put all these well ahead of time, we do projections for every game, all the way down to the player level for major games, I should say. That's points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, whatever you could possibly think of statistically. We have that. Minutes. The link will be below. If you're interested, try it out. I appreciate you if you've done that. Let's go to the Big East. We have an awesome game. Creighton St. John's. A lot of implications for this game in terms of seeding. First place in the conference. St. John's recently dropped their most recent contest. A game they shot 37 three-pointers, making 30% of them. Honestly, surprised they made that many. The big question today is how many are they going to shoot? They do have a big injury. Davon Smith, he's out with a neck. Everything else in this game injury-related is not new, like Pop Isaacs, Brady Dunlap, guys that have been out for a long time. But this is also a rematch. They played on December 31st. Creighton won 57-56. That was on their home court. Now they have to go to New York. St. John's forced 19 turnovers in that game, but they shot the ball so poorly that they still lost. Honestly, this is a tough stylistic matchup for both teams because St. John's can't shoot, a problem that's now worse given the loss of Davon Smith. He was their best shooter, and he was the only player on the team shooting over 30% from beyond the arc. Crazy stat how bad they are. Creighton is 26th in total defense, but they're built uniquely. They play through their center, Ryan Kalkbrenner, defending Big East Defensive Player of the Year, and he might be the best defensive big man in the country. Because he protects the rim so well, Creighton is willing to let you shoot over the top of them and take threes. Any team should be willing to let St. John's do this, but Creighton especially will. On the other side, Creighton built weird. They have a 7-foot center in Kalkbrenner, which they're also big across like their wings and stuff, which allows them to come in third in effective height, but they also cede a ton of height at point guard. Stephen Ashworth is giving up 6 inches to Kadari Richmond. He's certainly limited athletically there. And that had an effect in the first game. Ashworth turned the ball over 10 times. He contributed 10 of those 19 turnovers. And Kadari's, RJ Lewis, whoever they put on him, it's going to be a big problem for Ashworth bringing up the ball. And St. John's already forces the 15th most turnovers in the entire country. Creighton's, it's not just this game where Creighton's had a problem with turnovers. This team is 239th in turnovers committed, well below average in what they do offensively with the ball. Turnover-wise, that is. When they do get to their spots, they're infinitely better shooting than St. John's. They're 22nd in effective field goal. Most of that comes inside with Kalkbrenner. They're actually 134th in three-point percentage. Ashworth has not had the same year that he had last year. And perhaps it's just because they're more reliant on him. And even against Kalkbrenner inside, when you look at this matchup stylistically, it's not just advantages St. John's has defensively, like with Kadari and RJ Lewis. Zuby Ejiofor, he grades out as their second most efficient defender, providing solid rim protection himself. So this is a tough matchup for Kalkbrenner, as efficient as he's been. I literally think this game might come down to how does St. John's play this. In the last game, they shot 39% from 2, 22% from 3. If they literally are like up 1% in either of those, they win the game against Creighton. But like, I have major questions. If I was a reporter, I would ask Rick Pitino, why are you shooting 37 threes? That happened in their most recent game that they lost. And the answer might be harmless. It might be like, look, they were giving us infinite space from 3. Like, at some point, we just have to take open shots. And that also might not be the answer. I don't know. I just wish reporters would ask something. As far as this game goes, we have this projected 66.9 for Creighton, 72.7 for St. John's. I tend to lean St. John's minus the 6 if you force me to take it, but we have this almost right on the spread. Maybe a little bit of value Creighton's way, honestly, but I think St. John's matches up stylistically a little bit better. They get this game at home, and they're coming off the loss. So all that narrative-y stuff, it's in your corner if you're a St. John's backer. Last game we'll talk about today. Hopefully you can do more on Twitter. You can follow me at Matt_Gajewski if you'd like. If you have been watching these videos and you enjoy them, I would ask you to consider subscribing. We're now only 934 away from me being able to make a few cents off these videos. And anything helps. Liking, subscribing, comments. I appreciate you if you've taken the time to do this. Again, it's not lost on me that you take your time to watch this show. I appreciate you. Big Ten game, Michigan, Ohio State, probably the biggest game of the day just because Big Ten's better front to back than the Big East. But Michigan's a 2.5-point underdog on the road. Ohio State, the home team, total in this game, 150.5. No injuries of note, just Michi Johnson's disappeared from Ohio State. That's not new. Ohio State might be more banged up than they're letting on. Like Bradshaw and Royal have both missed time recently. Michigan should be healthy for the most part. They had sickness problems a few weeks ago. That's long behind them. Resume-wise, Michigan's 3-1 against top 25 teams. They only lost to Purdue on the road. They avenged that loss this past week, midweek, on Tuesday. These teams rematched. So they got Purdue back, and then their other losses, they're pretty questionable. Wake Forest at 63. That's their power rating. Arkansas, 39. Number 45, Oklahoma, and number 91, Minnesota. Pretty weird body of work for Michigan, but this team lives dangerously. I think we all have kind of seen at this point how they play with their two big men inside, Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, the pair of 7-footers they're willing to put on the floor. And that allows them to be second in effective height, 30 in rebounding. They're also fifth in interior scoring. That's a big problem for Ohio State. Looking at their resume, they're 3-6 against top 25 teams. They've played a slightly harder schedule, so they just have more opportunities. They don't have quite as bad of losses. There's no like 91 Minnesota or 63 Wake Forest like there is with Michigan, but there is 53 Indiana that was an OT. But what you want to point out with Ohio State is they are 180th in effective height, 135th in rebounding, 98th in interior defense. That's a massive mismatch Michigan's direction. And if you isolate their losses, a lot of these are good losses, so it's not too much to worry about. But against Michigan, it might be. The front court's gotten beat up a little bit. Maryland, Indiana, Oregon, Illinois, they've all played exceptionally well against Ohio State. And I mean exceptionally well. Biddle's over 20 points. The combination of Ivisic and Morris Johnson put up like nearly, I think they put up 39 points, nearly 40 points. Now you have Vlad and Danny Wolf. Like that could be an absolutely death blow to this Ohio State team inside. With that said, Ohio State is much better shooting. They're 15th from 3. Michigan State is 73rd. So that is an advantage. Bruce Thornton's at 46%. John Mobley's at 42%. Micah Parrish is at 37%. 3 elite shooters for this team. And probably the big advantage is just turnovers again. Does Michigan turn the ball over, or is this sort of a neutral matchup? I lean towards neutral because Ohio State's not a team that forces a ton of them. They're a team that's 220th in turnovers forced, and they're going to need to force more than that. Michigan, they will cause unforced errors. They're 330th in turnovers committed, just an egregious number. So I'm not sure where this one shakes out. I tend to lean that Michigan can get the ball over half court without a problem and run their offense, but I'm not 100% certain of that. And the last thing to mention on the periphery, Ohio State has a major problem fouling. They're 25th in fouls committed. Michigan's top 100 in fouls generated. A lot of that is because of the lineup they play. It's just extremely hard to run offense against them. Ohio State can't keep their hands to themselves. It's just the end of the story. We make this 73.6 for Michigan, 75.1 for Ohio State, which would be a play on Michigan plus 2.5. I have not taken this. Probably should, probably will, but that's where it stands for now. Michigan is the side that we will look to for this game. That'll do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you like and don't like about this. I've been toying around with doing some sort of March Madness preview show with teams that are in position to win, or doing more recap stuff. It's hard on the weekends. The calendar doesn't really lend itself to a lot of content. Games end about 12 hours before they start again, which doesn't leave a lot of time to recap, but would consider it if people want it. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow, and good luck.